Hello, everyone. Welcome in and welcome to our 26.4 release webinar. So, we're going to be going over everything from our April feature release that happened last month. I'm going to give everyone just a couple minutes to join in here. And in the meantime, my favorite way to start these feature release webinars is with a little icebreaker. Forgive me, I have a little cold, so my voice is kind of going in and out. But the little icebreaker today, feel free to put your answers in the chat. It should be open to everyone. I would love to know, what is everyone's favorite type of cuisine, like your favorite type of food. I'm a huge foodie. I'm always thinking about food. It's 10 a.m. where I am. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch today. So my favorite is Italian, hands down, like anything cheesy, creamy, like pasta dishes, pizzas. I'm all about it. That is my go-to comfort food. But I also love Thai food. It's kind of like a close second. So, what about you, Brandon?
That's a really good question. I do consider myself a slight foodie. I would say I would agree my favorite food was Italian for a very long time. Like that's my heritage, that's how I grew up. I would say in the last 5 years though, I've probably switched over to sushi.
Ooh,
I finally had good sushi in the last couple of years and realized like I saw the light. So it's a toss up right now between sushi and Italian.
yeah. I think that matters. You have to have good sushi for it to be your favorite.
Yeah, and I'm in the middle of the country, so we're landlocked, so not a ton of opportunity to have super fresh stuff. So that made the big difference.
Yeah, I'm seeing Scott says Indian. That is also really good
Yeah,
food. If you have really good Indian food, I think that's kind of key as
also
well.
accurate.
I'm seeing some Thai, Italian, Mediterranean. That's a good one. Mexican. We love Taco Tuesday. Dan says cupcakes and donuts. So I love that you made that its own food group, and that's a great cuisine. I would love to live off cupcakes and donuts. And what about you, Bill?
So I saw a note in here from Dave that says Taco Tuesday every day, and I'm on Dave's team here. I'm a big Mexican food fan.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. And there's so many different ways you could do a taco, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, taco pizza. There you go. Trips living in the best of both worlds here.
Man, pizza. Yeah, pizza's oh man. Went to New York like last year and like probably ate at 35 different pizza places and oh my Lord.
Yeah.
You know what? I just like food. I'm gonna change my answer. I have no favorites. I like all of
That's that's an acceptable answer as well. All right. Well, thank you everyone for
it.
participating. I always love to see your answers. And now I'm going to spend the next hour of this webinar thinking about all these different types of food and going to get really hungry. But thank you for joining us today. And we're really excited to be here again. This is our monthly feature release webinar, happens on the first Wednesday of every month. And this is our chance to get all of the Cork partners together and really show you all the new features that we released in the past month and show you how you can implement them into your business and really how to use these tools to the best of their abilities, right? We release these features for you, our MSPs, and we want to make sure that you're seeing the full value in the Vantage platform and really putting them to good use. So today we have a couple exciting releases that we're going to go over. I would say the biggest two new features that we launched last month is our automated and suggested mapping and our Cork Cyber Score simulator. So we launched our Cork Cyber Score a couple months ago, but just last month we released the feature ability to simulate the score. So this is really cool and a really neat way to kind of dial in your clients' data and maybe how things could look and give you a really neat way to share things with them during QBRs or any kind of conversations you're having with them about their security. So I will let Brandon take it from here. He's going to dive into some of these features. If at any point you have questions, please throw them in the chat. We will absolutely have time to get to them. We want to make sure that all your questions are answered and you all are fully aware of how to use these features. So take it away, Brandon.
Cool. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this webinar is going to be a little bit different. Before they were a little bit more scripted. We had kind of like defining features inside the platform. And since we've released so many features since like kind of the beginning of the year and even a little bit before that, we're now kind of in like a also doing refinement of said features, right? And that's kind of where we're at. So I want to talk a little bit about the two big things, obviously the simulation of the Cork score as well as the automated mapping and how all that's working, but kind of like our mindset behind it, and then also kind of what it means on your day-to-day workflow. So the first thing I'll actually cover is going to be let's do the automated workflow, I think is going to be the better place to start. I did put a link in the chat as well for a full list of the release notes as well. So we also did a bunch of smaller changes when it comes to a bunch of different things regarding integrations, as well as some additional authentication methods for our MCP server integrations, and we'll kind of go from there. But so as most of you, if you have onboarded with Cork, you kind of know already like about the mapping process, and what we attempt to do is look at all of your different vendors, choose that same client that exists in each vendor, and then map them together. Well, as you can imagine, that's easier said than done. There's a lot of variables that go into that. It kind of depends a little bit on the API. It depends a little bit on how things are formatted. Every bit MSP has kind of a different way of organizing their information, right? So one of our devs, who I will give a special shout out to, his name is James, but he worked relentlessly on improving that process for you all. So what we have done is almost completely reworked the back end of the program when it comes to how we tie customers and endpoints together to hopefully be much more accurate and easier to onboard for both new customers that you get on board and for new partners as well. Just kind of like the whole flow of the product should be a lot smoother. So the big thing is what we would do is now, whenever you integrate something, there's actually going to be two different modes that you can set the mapping to. If you are an existing partner with Cork from kind of like the beginning of April and before, there is a mapping mode underneath admin and settings. And we may move this actually to be more close to the mapping tab so you're aware of it. But for now, it is located under here. And you'll all be in suggestion mode. If you have not started your Cork proof of concept yet, and you spin up today, or if you spun up in the last week or so, it will be in automatic mode. So automatic is going to tie everything together automatically. When you integrate something, you won't have to do the manual mapping. It'll just kind of sync everything that it can. And if it can't, it'll kind of let you know. For those of you who have already been part of the platform, it's in suggested mode. And if you want to access kind of like the front end of this development, you'll go to your clients tab and then click into the mappings category over here. And we'll kind of start in here. And one thing I'm going to encourage too is that in our platform, we've also tried to standardize all the little buttons inside that kind of, indicate where to go for guides and everything like that. So anytime you see like one of these question marks in the interface, that will usually explain either the page that you're on or that specific thing that it's next to. So in this case, this goes into all of the different ways that we kind of are thinking about how to match endpoints and clients together, how we can go about kind of making that more efficient. There's links to the knowledge base in here to these particular sections as well. So highly recommend reading this just to kind of give an idea of the logic that we are using. And to show you kind of what this is also doing is that when I look at my Cork clients, which are all of the clients that I've imported into Cork and have kind of made an official customer that, has multiple integrations tied to it, that is what we now call a Cork client. And within here, we'll take the Death Star and their very terrible environment. Gosh, they need better security posture. You can see here, so the initial integrations with Death Star says DBX BIME-API. So this was probably something that was integrated when it first started up. But now we notice that there's another program here called for slides, but the company is Acme. So the reason why it's saying, hey, we want to unmap this from Death Star, or we suggest to unmap it from Death Star, is because not only are we looking at the actual name of the company and seeing if that matches here, but we're also seeing we're checking the assets as well. So if there's a heavy asset overlap, even if it's a different name of a company, it may actually merge them together successfully because it detects that all those assets are the same. And we did this in attempt, the way that we've kind of weighted things is to account for as many different scenarios when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, when it comes to co-management, when it comes to onboarding new clients, and you are slowly rolling them out across your product stack. That's kind of like how we're looking at all of these different aspects in order to make sure that things flow together. And so you can see here, like same deal, Black Rooster, that's the Death Star here. This one is probably suggesting to unmap because the assets that's seen in here does not fully match any of the other assets that are officially a part of that. So that would be something that, we would want to at least look at, see if it's accurate or not. If it is not accurate, we can just hit reject. It goes into this review suggestion and we hit apply, and it will not suggest that again. So just a brief overview on how to use this particular piece. And then down here, we do have all of the mapping to assets together as well. So if we think that there are other things that should be mapped to this environment, they will be down here underneath suggested. And then we would go ahead, same deal, we would hit accept. It kind of brings up a little tab or a list here. And we can do this en masse as well. So if I click, reject here and then accept here, and then I'll do another accept here. It's just going to create this list and I can kind of remove or add them as needed. And then I would hit apply and it goes ahead and makes all those changes for me. Same thing with the endpoints as well. So underneath each client, you will now see a thing that says view endpoints, inbox, and domain mappings. And what this is going to do is actually break down the endpoints on a per endpoint basis and show you where we're actually seeing that endpoint from. So you can see underneath here for the inboxes that we're detecting, this one is coming from, looks like it is coming just from the security awareness training tool and the email security tool. So if you're ever curious about where we're picking up a particular integration for, not only is it in the clients tab now, but it's also inside this specific tab meant to kind of view the assets. And again, there's going to be more information over here when we click on the question mark. This goes into the matching algorithm and everything that we're looking at in order to map these things successfully. As you guys can imagine, there is a million different scenarios where MSPs are reprovisioning endpoints, redoing endpoints, making sure that things are up to date. And of course, vendors will often hold on to old records of endpoints in order to have an audit trail of things, which can complicate things because we can still pull that in as an actual endpoint. So there was a lot of factors that we have since realized that we need to account for since the start of the Cork product. And the mappings tab is the big push in that direction. So it should be live in everybody's platform. Like I said, you'll just see it under clients and mapping. If you are in suggestion mode, recommend just going in there and seeing how that is. And of course, if you do have any feedback or if you notice something is particularly inaccurate, let us know. We can dive into that for you and discover that. So the other big use that we're finding from mappings is the ability to not only just make sure that everything gets imported into Cork correctly, but also to identify assets that may have got misattributed in the actual onboarding process, right? So if you are registering a brand new product and you accidentally enter the client ID for another client rather than the client it was supposed to go to, well, technically that product is online. The endpoints are actually, they're backing up or they're being protected or whatever the case happens to be, but they're actually located in the wrong client. This will now surface that. So if there is misaligned assets in the vendor itself, this will actually show up in here and will most likely show up as something that you'll either want to unmap or in the actual endpoints tab, it'll suggest to like unmap that particular endpoint from its source. So in terms of like sussing out all of the different holes and deployments and things like that that go out. This is going to be real key to that. And it just makes sure that, especially if you do a large deployment, that everything is in place, is 100% accurate across two different sources, right? Both your RMM tool as well as directly from the vendor, which is, what the Cork platform provides. But yeah, this should up the accuracy of the platform considerably and hopefully make it easier for you guys to both onboard and offboard whenever you need to do. I see the question here. That's a great question, Dave. So I'll repeat it here for the call. How does Cork handle management if computers are renamed, and also if they are reformatted, rebuilt with the same name? Well, it depends on the vendor itself. If the vendor keeps a record of the old machine, most likely we will, we'll keep that record as well inside Cork. But what Cork does is we try to match more than just the endpoint name. So if I go in here and I click this is actually all of the different categories that we look at for matching. So most likely, if you renamed an endpoint, it's still going to have the same MAC address. It may very well still have the same IP. It could still have, this same serial number, etc. And those criteria would be enough for us to go ahead and merge those together, or at least suggest a merger of those particular endpoints. And that scenario is exactly what we were looking to address and also, honestly, what kind of inspired this whole conversation about how do we optimize this algorithm to help people on a day-to-day basis. Is that, we weren't really accounting for people reprovisioning devices and everything like that. And of course, that is a very common occurrence in the MSP space. So we look at as many different components of the endpoint name as possible, or the endpoint as possible, not just the name, but everything underneath that entails that endpoint as well. It should auto match, and of course, if it doesn't, then of course you can still manually match if needed, of course, or just accept the suggestion and it should go through. Can the system flag submit a ticket when it notices a mapping alert or notification? That is actually a good idea. We will note that down in our kind of like features and implementations. And yeah, I'm sure we can probably do something like that with notifications, especially when it comes to like the PSA tool and stuff like that. We're always optimizing that as well. So I would say yes, that's probably a possibility. Paul will make sure to get that into our system and kind of let you know the feasibility of that as well. So
And just to read Paul's question out loud for others to hear, I'm not sure if everyone can see the Q&A or not, because I know you can all see the chat, but Paul asked if there was a way the system can flag or submit a ticket when it notices a mapping alert or notification. So,
yeah.
and then Brandon, where you just were in the suggested mapping, we do also have the KB article like we do for all of our new features. So that's linked there as well. You can go ahead and click on that. And our lovely engineering and product team made this beautiful graphic. Shout out to James for doing that. I wanted to make sure we showed that off for him.
Yeah, and there's quite a few different knowledge base articles that went along with this feature just because of how expansive it was. So, we'll make sure that all of these things are inside the chat as well for you guys. But yeah, all of this should now be documented. It should be up, should be live. And of course, like I said too, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to cover that for you guys. So cool. And I'll kind of let other additional questions flow in here as I kind of go in to the different one. But the next big one that we introduced is the ability to simulate the Cork score. So if you weren't here for the last webinar, or if you haven't been inside the portal too much, one of the things that we have introduced in the last couple months was what we call the Cork Cyber Score. And the idea behind the Cork Cyber Score is really just to give a numerification to the security hygiene of an environment. So it's not like a credit score per se, where there's a bunch of hidden factors that you don't know about, but rather it's more like Credit Karma, where it's kind of designed to give you just an overall perspective of what's going on. And within this, we got a lot of questions about like, well, okay, I see my score is at 400. What would it be like if I actually, connected all of my things, or if I resolved my compliance issues, or if I resolved my software vulnerabilities that the platform is detecting? Well, now you have the ability to do that. So our dev team has been hard at work, and we have a nice little simulate button here. And what this actually does is it allows me to see my simulated score. And there's a couple different commands in here. So I'm going to bring this up first. There's three different simulation modes, which is your actual environment. There is the none, which simulates having zero events or vulnerabilities. So none with an upward trend means that your score is going to go up. Or if you want to kind of simulate the worst case scenario where somebody has a lot of vulnerabilities or maxes out that category anyway in terms of score, that's going to be what the max impact means. Same thing with coverage. Coverage percentages mean 0% means nothing is covered, 100% means everything is covered. And then 50% is going to be the rough estimate, is if half the endpoints that we're observing were covered underneath there. So to give you an idea of how you might use this, for one, just to kind of observe and evaluate your own environment, Los Pollos here has quite a few compliance issues. And so the two biggest factors that actually play into the Cork score are going to be those two. It's going to be compliance issues, and it's going to be software vulnerabilities. And so if I go to simulate, and I want to say that if I resolve all of my compliance events, so I'll do both of those, or actually there we go. And then let's say all of my vulnerabilities have been remediated across there, and I run that simulation. You can see now that that score jumps up to 850. So a massive increase inside that Cork score. And the big thing that we've realized that this is very useful to do, and we actually have plans to make this even more friendly towards this particular use case scenario, is prospecting. To share this environment with your customers, kind of sit down with them and show them, hey, this is what happens if we're able to actually install EDR and get everything remediated on here, or if we can do all the patching that we need to in order to, make sure that your environment is more secure. And the thing is, like, because this is based off of, all the different controls that are actually being observed, or even if you onboard a new client and you just get everything that they have kind of hooked up, you can run this for them and then show them the actual score and then show them a simulated score in terms of what you can do for them. So along those lines, the big thing that we want to do next, and I can't give an official timeline for this, unfortunately, but we do want to make the simulator here brandable to each MSP so that you guys can actually use this in client-facing calls, in QBRs, when prospecting new clients, when evaluating environments, etc. We just really wanted a way to kind of take all the data inside of here and show that, hey, if we remediate these things, or if we change these things, or if we implement these things, this is how the Cork score can improve and give a more accurate breakdown in terms of what is actually going on in terms of the security posture. And of course, that does then play into over here in risk insights where there is, let's see, where is it is underneath vulnerabilities, especially there is this category here, which is a peer comparison. So again, this kind of is also looking at, software vulnerabilities and where you stack up in there. And then kind of the same thing with the Cork scores that we eventually want to introduce something like this as well, just so you can kind of compete against your peers and see who can be the most secure. So let's see here. Trying to just make sure everything else is covered here. Oh yeah, this was another one that we did. So this is a smaller one, but we do now have we can now export per client assets. So if I go into clients and I go down to, we'll do Stark for this one, I can now just click generate CSV. And that will actually take all of this data that's inside here for the endpoints and spit it out in a CSV so you can view it offline. Again, review it with customers if you need to. Whatever you happen to need that information for is now available. Same thing with inboxes. You can generate a CSV for it, and it should detail everything out that needs to be in there. But just wanted to give a quick highlight for that. I know that's been asked for a little bit now, and we finally got it implemented. And probably the final feature, and most likely my favorite, besides maybe the algorithm, we have dark mode. Yay. We could thank Arun for this. This is Arun's doing over the last couple of weeks, and you can see looks very, very nice. And you can choose between the two or set it to system, but I was really excited about this because I pretty much do everything in dark mode. Light mode hurts my eyeballs. So dark mode all the way. I'll leave it on light mode for now just so that everybody's kind of used to that style of interface, but just be aware you can change it now. It should be this little icon in the bottom left from there. And let me check the chat here to see if there's anything else that has come up. Let's see.
I did see that Carlvin, I think it said it flashed on the screen really quickly that you raised your hand. So if you had a question, go ahead and throw it in the chat or use the Q&A button and we can make sure we get to that.
Cool. Not seeing anything. Cool. And of course, we're always looking for feedback about all of this stuff. Oh, we do have now a question. Okay, so Paul has asked, is there a report that we can build that would show all of our clients quirks of yes. Yes, and also TBD. So it is now included in I believe it's the compliance summary. Yes. Or wait, no, which one is it in? So do you remember which reports it's in? Is it in the
I thought it was compliance summary.
Let me do it for, oh, you know what? It's probably for a specific customer.
Oh
So
yeah, you have to run it per client.
yeah. So I'm gonna do run the compliance summary for Stark Industries here. And we're gonna generate that report. Yeah, I forget for all clients it wouldn't do that because all clients doesn't have like a Cork score. There we go. Yep. So it goes right there. So now, especially as you get that score higher, because the compliance summary report is one of the most popular reports that we have seen for MSPs interacting with their customers in order to just talk about the hygiene of their environment, right? And now with the Cork Cyber Score being included in there, that looks even better. Big numbers. They'll be happy to see that you're kind of remediating all the events. But we plan to expand this as well. Because we're looking at how to incorporate information around software vulnerabilities, right? Including like we have the percentage of events resolved for our compliance issues, but we also want to do the same thing for when we see software vulnerabilities remediated, attach it to this as well. So it looks even better for you guys, when presenting information. But yeah, currently the Cork Cyber Score is part of the compliance summary report when you do it for an individual customer. That was a fantastic question. So glad you asked that. Okay, cool. Give a couple more minutes there. But I will reiterate too, everything you see inside the platform, including these features, including the revision of the mapping algorithm, all the new integrations we've seen. Honestly, it is because of MSPs and partners like you guys. So one, thank you very much for helping us with all of that. I'm sure some of you have actually been a part of that, helping us get new integrations set up and providing feedback about the mapping algorithm. There was some large partners in particular that really helped us kind of like allowed us to figure out if the algorithm would be working inside their environments, which are usually very complex and with a lot of endpoints. And that was extremely helpful and really would not be possible without you guys, lending your voice to that and lending a hand so that we can kind of help build this product out with everything that you see, of course, if you have recommendations, if you have features, criticism, feedback, etc., well, let us know. We really, really, really want to make the platform meaningful for you guys. We want it to be something you can kind of depend on. You can work on it in any which way you want, right? MCP server, PSA ticketing directly inside the interface. We're constantly seeking to improve there. Almost all the features you've seen today are also, again, due to partner feedback. So please keep it coming. And yeah, if any of you would like to do a follow-up call to this, let us know as well. We can dive much deeper into your specific environment, how you can use these tools specifically for everything from just making sure that things are secure to understanding the mapping algorithm a little bit better to prospecting for clients and QBR and the Cork Score Simulator and all of that stuff. So yeah, let us know how we can help because we are more than willing to do so. And with that, I will give a couple extra minutes just to make sure that there are no lingering questions. And actually, Zoe, I'll pass it back to you for a second. Is there anything else that you needed to cover for the webinar?
Yeah, just a couple things I wanted to point out. One, we just got back from Kaseya Connect in Vegas last week. We had Dan, Rachel, Casey, and James from our team there. So if you got the chance to see them in person, we're so glad you stopped by the booth. We always have so much fun seeing our partners and being at these shows and getting to be in person, interacting with you. That's one of the best parts of the job. The next show we'll be at is going to be PAX 8 Beyond coming up in the beginning of June. So if you'll be there, definitely let us know. Stop by. We know PAX 8 throws a great party, and we're really looking forward to that one as well. And then the last thing I wanted to mention is an upcoming series that will be starting towards the end of May, and we'll send out some communications beforehand with a little bit more information and ways to register. But we're going to be running a masterclass series, and essentially the idea behind this masterclass is to really dive into the different ways that you can be using Cork Cyber in your business, right? So there's Cork covers a lot of things, everything from visibility to financial impact, and we want to help you learn how to put that to work for your MSP. We know that there's a lot of different paths and use cases that our MSPs are using Cork for, everything from like improving day-to-day efficiency, strengthening client trust, driving financial impact. And so that's what this masterclass series is really going to be diving into. It'll be a 5-session series. The first one's kind of going to be an overview. It's called Cork Rewired, right? So we're really trying to re-educate our partners on the best ways to be using Cork and all that Cork can do. So on these monthly feature release webinars, we're showing you all the features, showing you how to use them. But on the masterclass, we're going to be really diving into how to put those features to use in your business. So like I said, that first one's just going to be an overview session. And then the 4 following that will be the 4 different paths that you can use Cork for and the ways we're seeing our partners best use it. So you can choose, kind of like choose your path. You can choose the one that best suits you. You can come to all 4 if that makes sense and you really want to learn how to connect all those dots. But we're really excited to bring this series to you. So definitely keep an eye on your inbox for the invites to sign up. Like I said, that first session I believe will be starting at the end of May, and they'll run every 2 weeks for the length of the masterclass. So with that, I did just see one more question come in. Dave says, any update on when we might be able to start either exporting or printing reports from the software vulnerabilities section? Great question, Dave.
That I don't know. I do know that it is a very talked about topic. Let's see here. Trying to see. Is Rune available? Rune, do you happen
Hi.
to be available?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, do you
Currently, that's not a report, but we've talked about it, and I think that we might try to bring that into dev soon. So I'll bring that to the team, and we can hopefully get that going soon.
cool. Awesome. Thank you, man.
Oh, I'm seeing James say they can do that via our API now with the MCP.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Excellent. I will say, so I'll reiterate too, the all the existing partners within Cork, you should have got an email introducing Bill Taylor. He's our new partner success manager, but I will reintroduce him on this call. He was on the last one, but newest addition to the Cork team. Couldn't be more excited to have him on already. He's already making waves here. So yeah, just wanted to give a special shout out to Bill. If you would like to meet with him, let us know and we can get that arranged.
Yep. And just to point this out, Karen asked if there would be a cost for the masterclass series. No, this is something included for all of our partners that we're really happy to bring to you and provide this added value for our partners. So, great question, though. All right.
Ooh.
If there's anything else, I'll give it like one more minute. If you were in, Brandon, do you want to show them maybe how to access via the API and the MCP to add that in if they were interested? Oh, you just only put that in there.
Yeah, I'm just doing these articles inside the chat here so people
Okay.
can get them. Yeah, so for the MCP stuff, you can just come into, I believe we actually have it as a dedicated article. MCP, there we go. There we go. So this is going to be the document for that, and this will also have a link to the API and the documentation available, but this will give you all that information.
Awesome.
And if you need the API, under admin API key.
All right. With that, I believe that is everything we have for you today. So, thank you all so much for giving us your time and joining us. It really means a lot that you spend this valuable time with us, and we are really thankful that we get to share these features and dive a little deeper into them with you because it's so important that our partners have visibility into everything that we're doing and everything that we're bringing forward. So thank you all so much. We do this on the first Wednesday of every month at this same time. We also have our newsletter that goes out the last Tuesday of each month, so a week before the webinar to kind of recap the month and give you a little bit more insight into what the team is working on. And as Brandon said, if anything comes up in the meantime, any requests that you have or features you want to see, don't hesitate to let us know. We love building based on our partner feedback and want to bring you the best product and platform that this could be. So it's important to us that we hear from you and get your feedback.
Cool. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, everybody, for attending today, and hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Bye, all.
Bye.